All right, here we go. Site audit time. Haven't done one of these in a while, at least not on live streams, so I figured it'd be a good way to start. We might do a couple of these. Again, if you're coming up to the show, feel free to ask anything, and I will answer it as soon as we're done with these. All right, so this one, please do my site. We're in the videography niche. It's a local site. And that's about all the info that I was given on this one. So let's go ahead and jump in here and take a look. Again, we're using Ahrefs to do our site audits. It's the main tool. We are not sponsored by them or anything. Wish we were. But, this gives us the most data for those of you that are a little bit newer. This is how we're basically going to do everything. Now, there are competitors, SEMrush, Majestic, things of that nature, and they're good as well, but this is just our preference. And site audit, typically, I'm going to go through the same motions unless I get hit with something random. So first off, I'm going to go to the actual site and just have a quick look at this. All right, looks clean, very personalized, good branding. Is it all one page here? Okay. Curious if this is built on WordPress, as it's got a kind of Squarespace sort of feel to it, but yeah, so a lot is on the home page. I mean, it's a clean site for local. It looks like it's fleshed out the way it's supposed to be. One point of interest here is that you've got your home page, then you've got a locations page, right? And I know you're a photographer. I don't know if you're primarily a wedding photographer. However, typically for a local site, you're going to have your locations page, and then you're also going to have a services section. So if you're a wedding photographer and that's exclusively what you do, then you're niche down here, and that's fine. If you offer anything else, then it would make sense to kind of have those extra services page. And sometimes, even just from a search perspective, that could help out. But okay, then you've got your portfolio, you've got a blog. One thing I'm not seeing here is clearly defined EEAT. And we've got a lot of videos on EEAT, but I'm not seeing an address in here. And if you are a local company, then I definitely want to see an address, to at least get the GMB that's closest to you. As I imagine that's going to relate to a lot of calls, same as any other local SEO. The GMB is going to be pretty vital to the business. So, an address. This whole website is about you. I'd like to see an about page, that's kind of fleshed out and things of that nature. So I think if you worked those angles, again, EAT is something that's like commonly overlooked. We've got an interview with Kyle Roof that really goes into that if you want to look that up. But from an on-page standpoint, those are the only things that I would really consider messing with. Maybe a services section, and then some EAT value. I'm looking at the blog real quick, which looks like a long blank page, but you've got some sections here. Okay. Pretty heavy on the top 5 stuff. As I'm just looking down the blog, and like this makes me think, probably AI, but I don't know how many of these start off with top 5 XXXXX. Like, yeah. Don't overdo stuff like that. There's no reason for it. A lot of times you can attack the broader keyword and then kind of tag this top 5 stuff through the article. So don't go too heavy on that. I don't remember when it was exactly, but maybe a year or two ago, where specifically affiliate sites had gotten hit for being top this or best this article heavy, right? And so these are things that like people look at. And I know this is a local website, but again, you know, some stuff to watch out for. And then the articles seem to read fine. And of course, it's hard to tell. So if you are using AI, you know, or if anybody out there is watching this audit and curious about it, just make sure you're doing a lot of human editing and you're leaving out some of the stuff that's very obviously AI written. But overall, that looks okay. I would just cool it with the top 5 or best related articles here. All right, so let's get to the fun part, the off page. And you guys have a image here. If you look at it, you know, organic traffic's actually doing pretty well. I mean, they're not getting a whole lot of traffic, right? But it's coming up. Granted, it looks like it wasn't getting much traction until around January of 2025. And if they recently bought this site or just got started on it, you know, that looks pretty good. Domain rating isn't really going up, which makes me think that they're not really doing too much in the form of backlinking, at least no, you know, authority values. So let's get in there and check it out. Overall, though, I would say, you know, healthy. It came up off the floor and it's rising. So that's always a good sign. It means you've got some positioning in the SERPs and Google is starting to kind of test you out. So the first thing I like to check out are the anchors, as this is a place a lot of people will mess up and it gives me a pretty clear indication on whether there's going to be a spam issue on the site or not. Starting out, you know, we've got naked, branded, and random kind of stuff. I see an exact match. It's only got 3 referring domains at this exact match. Very well blended in with very natural looking stuff. And then we see a bunch of random, more long tail kind of stuff come out. Yeah, so from an anchor standpoint, you know, this looks very clean in my opinion. Everything looks really good here. We'll jump on over to referring domains to see what kind of strength we've got, and then also get an idea again, you know, whether this is going to be spammier or whether we're going to have some like guest post kind of stuff. And right out of the gate, like you see some common stuff like pages.dev, SEOflux.io, yada yada. All that is like common, you know, spammy directory kind of stuff or like crawler kind of stuff that's going to be there naturally. But it's not like too long before we start seeing what looks like, without knowing them, some solid blogs with solid metrics, the type of domain names you'd want to see associated with something like a photographer. So that all looks pretty clean as well. And then we'll go to the backlinks and actually manually comb stuff. You know, I've had a lot of people recently ask about third-party metrics or complain that one recently was that SEMrush, like a score that had to do with relating to the niche down specifics of a blog was of value. And yeah, you know, we don't adhere to any of that. And the reason is because we're using the best data, right, which is Ahrefs as far as we've got it, to manually comb this stuff. And if you learn how to do that, then no third-party metric is going to actually give you an indication better than that. You might use it to kind of like deduce what's going on if you got a whole noise of data, like, you know, you're auditing 1,000 sites or something like that, right? You break it down that way, but not with third-party metrics. You know, maybe start with like DR or even DA or something like that. But anyhow, yeah, manually combing and getting used to this is going to be like one of the best things, especially as a newer SEO, you can start doing, because you'll start seeing what kind of value comes out of different concoctions, mainly, you know, when it comes to backlinks. So yeah, don't forget to get in there, get kind of dirty with it, and start inspecting the backlinks like we're about to do right now. And so up top, you know, I'm gonna just omit some of the spam stuff, but anything that looks like a blog post or niche edit or something, you know, quality, I'm gonna pull it up and I'm just gonna take a look at what kind of links we're getting. You know, the metrics on these look pretty good, especially for a local site. And some things you want to look for too is sometimes, you know, you'll look through a local site specifically, but a lot of different people do it. Pardon me. You think you've got a solid guest post, or like they've got a bunch of really nice guest posts, and what you need to do is Control F and check that anchor. A lot of times you're going to find them tucked down in the blog comments section. Now that's not a bad thing, but it's an indication, you know, of whether they're getting a really like a good authority link, which would be contextual and in the actual article itself, or if it's like a blog comment, which is really more of like a pillow link. Not to say that blog comments can't be good pillow links, they most certainly are, but yeah, it's the bread and butter we're looking for here, which is guest posts and niche edits. And they have a good amount of guest posts on sites that look really good, very clean. Now, yeah, overall, I'd say, you know, as far as backlinking goes, these guys are well on their way. So, you know, if we look at what's going on, fairly new that they've been working on the site, or at least heavily. It looks like January is where things started popping off. And I'm going to add referring domains to the main graph here in Ahrefs on the overview section. And if you look here, then referring domains started going up at like the end of 24. And that's where they started building from. So, you know, depending on what they did with content, et cetera, it looks like that sort of started taking around January for them. And now everything seems to be kind of going in unison. So again, the on-page stuff that I told you about, and from a backlinking perspective, it looks like you're doing pretty well. You know, you could do things like add a press release to give you some press here and there. That's also like the only pillow link that I will continually do. You can do one pretty safely every 6 months to a year, depending on the size of like your business and link velocity and things like that. But overall, that's an easy thing to do if you're looking for more like pillow links. And then, you know, basically niche edits and guest posts. You know, stick to the quality. It looks like the quality you're getting is good. I don't see like a bunch of Fiverr related stuff or anything that would be on like a mass Excel file, you know, a la carte. So overall, I'd say you're doing pretty good. It's probably on page that I think needs a little help from the EAT perspective. And then again, if you don't have a GMB going for this, you definitely want to. Let me check one last thing. I'm going to try, is the site WordPress theme detector to see if this is WordPress or not. Because here at SirLinksalot, we definitely advocate for, yeah, okay, so it is a Squarespace site. I was kind of worried about that. Maybe they've gotten a little bit better over the years, but Squarespace is not going to give you the functionality that you want to really rank in Google or in search in general. If you want solid functionality, like you're going to have to, you know, learn a little bit more, but it's worthwhile, or it's very easy to find contractors that will, you know, help you build out a local website. And I would highly recommend getting on WordPress over Squarespace. You know, I haven't built an HTML site in forever. I rarely do it anymore. We stick to WordPress because of its ease of use, its ability to, you know, you can hire contractors nonstop with it, and its overall functionality as far as ranking in the SERPs, like that gives you the easiest functionality. And SEO is a full-time job. For any of you that, you know, look down on something like WordPress, you have to understand like the end game and the end result is that you want to make money in this game, and whatever's going to help you automate this job more efficiently is going to do that. Unfortunately, you know, Squarespace, I know, is like they give you nice layouts, it's easy to use, anybody can do it, but then you're missing the back-end functionality that you would want in order to talk to the crawlers and then rank in the SERPs. So if you really want to be serious about ranking this website, then, you know, keep all that info in your back pocket, but get off Squarespace and jump over to WordPress. That's, you know, probably going to be the biggest thing. All right. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, make sure to give us a like, drop a comment, subscribe, so you don't miss out on any future SEO insights. And hey, if you're serious about your rankings, head over to SirLinksalot.co, check out our premium link building services, guides, and free SEO tools. See you next time.